Yo, what's going on, friends? Today's video is going to be on the 2.4.1 version of the Helltooth Pet Manajuma Angry Chicken speed farming setup. Now, a lot of you guys will be familiar with this build from Season 5. It was one of the best farming specs. Well, we got some gigantic buffs to the spec. It pretty much plays the same as it did in Season 5, but with just gigantic buffs, making it just absolutely annihilate Torment 10. And it's probably my favorite spec for bounty farming as well, just because, you know, with bounties, for the most part, you're trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, and you just have a ridiculous amount of movement speed in this build, with things like Crim's Buff Belt, Severance, and the Angry Chicken itself. Then also just a ton of damage once you get to your bounty destination. So first, let's go over how the build does damage. So we've got the Short Man's Finger. Gargantuan instead summons 3 smaller Gargantuans, each more powerful than before. So these things just hit like an absolute truck. This ring paired with the Tall Man's Finger, Zombie Dogs instead summons a single Gargantuan dog with more damage and health than all the other dogs combined, are going to be your 2 main sources of damage. And then we're going to be running the 6-piece Helltooth. After you cast Wall of Death, you're going to gain 1400% increased damage to the Gargantuans and the Zombie Dog. That's up from 900% last patch. We're also going to get a good bit of our toughness from the 4-piece set. After you apply Necrosis to an enemy, you take 60% reduced damage for 10 seconds. We're going to get the majority of our movement speed from the Manajuma set, the Ceremonial Knife, and the Offhand. Now, the first set bonus is pretty irrelevant for this build. The damage increase isn't getting multiplied by Helltooth, so it doesn't really matter. What really matters here is your Hex Angry Chicken lasts 15 seconds, and movement speed as a chicken is increased by an additional 100%. This gives us a great movement speed bonus pretty much all the time. It's not reliant on things like Ingeom. The rundown of the gameplay is extremely simple. Make sure you have your pets out, cast Wall of Death, cast Paranado to group mobs together, and just run around as your pets kill everything and you pick up the loot. When you're traveling long distances, you want to hit Severance first and then go into Angry Chicken, and that's really about it. The majority of the time what I do is I'll pop out an Angry Chicken when I get to a champion or elite pack, drop the Wall of Death, group all the mobs up with Paranado, and then pop it back into Angry Chicken. But again, the biggest thing here is just to make sure you always have your 6-piece Helltooth buff up to be buffing the pets. Next up, let's talk about the abilities. So first up, Wall of Death, Communing with Spirits. Now, first up, Wall of Death is really just there to proc your 6-piece Helltooth. That's its main function. But the best rune to run is Communing with Spirits. So you summon a circle of spirits for 6 seconds that deals 1200% weapon damage, which the damage, again, really doesn't matter much, as cold. Chills nearby enemies by 60% and reduces their damage dealt by 25% for 3 seconds. So you pop them on some elites and champions and reduce the damage that they're dealing to you for 3 seconds. Next up, summon Zombie Dog's Burning Dogs. So again, we're running the Tall Man's Finger to get a gigantic dog that's going to deal way more damage. And this rune allows the Zombie Dogs to burst into flames, burning nearby enemies and giving you a nice extra AoE aura, which is especially good for clearing trash. Piranha's Paranado to group mobs up, mostly for elites and champions. That way you get max benefit out of the AoE from your pets. Other options here would be to run Soul Harvest Soul to Waste for more movement speed. I'm going to show some of the gameplay with that change, just to show you what that looks like. I like that better for bounties to get the more movement speed. Now, you don't necessarily need this movement speed, so if you feel like your character might be a little bit squishy, especially early on in the season, you can always switch this out to Soul Harvest Languish for 50% more armor. Spirit Walk Severance. This is going to give you an extra 100% movement speed on top of the movement speed you already get from Spirit Walk. And again, after you've come out of Angry Chicken mode and killed a pack, you pop this real quick and then go into Angry Chicken and get a gigantic burst of speed and jet off to the next area. Hex Angry Chicken. Again, this is our main movement speed ability. You're going to be in Angry Chicken mode the majority of the time. Typically, I just search for elite and champion packs, and as long as you have your Helltooth buff up, the pets will kill enemies as you're moving and looking for more elites and champions and give you more progression in the rift. Gargantuan Humongoid. Summon a Gargantuan zombie to fight for you. The Gargantuan cleaves multiple enemies for 585% of your weapon damage as cold. So this is going to be an AoE cleave ability, but again, we're running the short man's finger to get 3 of these Gargantuans, each one more powerful than before. Next for the passives, the first one is Fierce Loyalty. While you have a pet out, your movement speed is increased by 15%. This bonus is increased to 30% while a Gargantuan zombie dog or fetish is not in combat, and you get 1 additional zombie dog to go towards your big dog. We got Gruesome Feast. When you're healed by a health globe, you gain 10% of your maximum mana and 10% intelligence for 15 seconds. You're going to have 5 stacks of Gruesome Feast the majority of the time, just a gigantic damage increase. Midnight Feast, the damage of your zombie dogs and gargantuans is increased by 50%. Again, those are our 2 main sources of damage, so that's a no-brainer. And then Pierce the Veil, all of your damage is increased by 20%, but your mana costs are increased by 30%. But in this build, you really don't use mana, so there's not much downside to it. Now for your 5th passive on your Hellfire Amulet, you've got a few options. I prefer Grave Injustice, just to get a little bit more cooldown reduction for things like Spirit Walk Severance and stuff like that. It's not really necessary, but in my opinion, once you get to a certain point, you don't really need any more damage out of your passives. So you can go for Confidence Ritual here, which you'll get the damage increase at times. You can also go with something like Jungle Fortitude or a defensive passive, Spirit Vessel if you want to, just to make sure that you're not dying and things like that. But I think my favorite 5th passive is Grave Injustice personally. Next up for the gear. So again, we have the Mana Juma's 2 set. For the Mana Juma's Carving Knife, these are pretty much the ideal stats. The attack speed's a great roll because attack speed does buff the damage of your pets. But if you feel like you need more toughness, you can always roll the attack speed to Vitality. For the offhand, we've got Intelligence, Vitality, Crit Chance, and then currently I've got Gargantuan damage. Gargantuan damage and Zombie Dog damage are pretty much interchangeable. The Tall Man's Finger with Int, Crit Damage, Crit Chance, and a Socket. The Short Man's Finger with Int, Crit Damage, Crit Chance, and a Socket as well. For the belt slot, I'm currently running the Witching Hour. I like just the static damage increase. Again, the attack speed buffs your pet's damage and they get crit damage out of it. Your other belt options are going to be the Harrington Waistguard. You're pretty much just running around letting your pets do all the passive damage anyways, so it gives you free reign to just go click objects, armor racks, weapon racks, dead bodies, chests, all that good stuff. You got the Gold Wrap to basically, once you start picking up gold right at the beginning with the Boon of the Hoarder gem, you're going to pretty much be immortal for the rest of the Rift. I would definitely recommend this for hardcore. And then the Crim's Buff Belt, 25% more run speed. This effect is lost for 5 seconds after taking damage. This is, in my opinion, by far the best belt for bounty running with this build. The more movement speed to get to your bounties, to get them completed, the better. For the helm slots, the Mask of Jerem, up to 100% more pet damage. Now you can either run Taskers on your character and Jerem in the cube, or vice versa. Currently I have Taskers in the cube. Typically, Taskers don't roll very well, so you're probably going to put them in the cube unless you get a really well-rolled pair early on or something like that. For the amulets, the Hellfire Amulet with Intelligence, Crit Damage, Crit Chance, and a Socket. The Intelligence is going to buff both your Fire Dogs and your Cold Gargantuans, so that's why we go with Intelligence there. On the Nim Bracers, Fire Damage, Intelligence, Vitality, and Crit Chance. Fire damage is fine, you can also go cold damage for the Gargantuans as well, but these are really important. Getting that extra champion when you click a shrine or a pylon, more DBs, more progression for the rifts. As far as the individual Helltooth pieces, for the boots, Int, Vit, Armor, and Movement Speed, and the Movement Speed can also be another defensive stat. Going full defensive stats on the pants with Int, Vit, and Armor. For the chest piece, Intelligence, Vitality, Gargantuan damage, and 3 sockets. Again, the Gargantuan damage can be zombie dog damage as well. For the shoulders, Intelligence. Ideally, you'd have Vitality, and then you can go cooldown reduction if you want to, or you can go another defensive stat, and then you want either Gargantuan damage or zombie dog damage. And then for the Helltooth gloves, I've got Intelligence, Vitality, Crit Damage, and Crit Chance. The Vitality can, again, be attack speed to buff your pets even more. Next up, the Kanai's Cube. Now, for the weapon slot, this is one of my favorite changes for the build for this patch. With Thing of the Deep, you get 20 pickup radius, which is amazing for Gruesome Feast, picking up health globes, and then also picking up progression globes from elites and champions. And with the buffs to Helltooth, I really don't think you need the furnace here anymore. The furnace was kind of the go-to before for more elite and champion and boss damage. You can still go that route if you feel like you need more damage, but I think the Thing of the Deep is the better option. For the armor, we got the Tasker and Theos, like we've already talked about, 50% more attack speed for the pets. This can be Mask of Jerem with Taskers on your character, either way. Then we've got the Ring of Royal Grandeur in the cube to get that 6-piece bonus for Helltooth. Next up, we have the legendary gems. First up, the Enforcer. This is now a multiplicative damage increase, so it's great for damage. We got the Bane of the Powerful as well. Now, either one of these could be swapped out for Bane of the Trapped, since Necrosis will proc Bane of the Trapped on pretty much everything anyways. So all three of those are great damage option gems. The third gem, I think you really don't need for damage, so I like Boon of the Hoarder for more gold and movement speed. But if you feel like you need more damage, then run Bane of the Trapped and just run all three damage gems. For Paragon points, get as much movement speed as you need and then go intelligence. Offense-wise, crit chance, crit damage, then attack speed, then CDR. Defense, armor percentage, life percentage, all resist, life regen. Then for utility, area damage and gold fine more than likely, and then life on hit. You really don't need resource cost reduction in this build. So that'll about wrap it up, guys. Thank you very much for watching. This is probably one of the easiest to gear for Torment 10 builds. It's also extremely good, like I've said, for bounties as well. And honestly, you guys should be able to run this very quickly in Season 6 and in patch 2.4.1. I'll have a Diablo fans written guide in the info section of this video as well if you guys want to check that out. Have fun in Season 6, and I'll see you next time.